Good morning, you're very welcome along to OTBAM. A very happy Tuesday morning to you wherever you're watching us from this morning. Big show for you over the next hour and a half or so. We've got Dillian Whyte on the line. He'll be joining us a little bit later on after his incredible win over Joseph Parker at the O2 on Saturday night. We'll also be chatting to Johnny Ward from Ballybrit ahead of day 2 of the Galway Racing Festival. And we're also going to be focusing on Limerick. It's going to be Limerick all the way, I think, throughout this morning show because Andy Lee is in studio. Good morning to you, Andy.
Morning, man.
I did want to talk to you about the boxing at the top here. That was the plan. That was the plan we had sketched out all last week. And then Limerick came along and they did the incredible on Sunday.
Yeah, it was an amazing day. An amazing match, and just... I can't profess to being, having a great knowledge of hurling. It's only my second match I've ever been to.
Right, okay.
The last time I went, they beat Cork and they won the final.
So you're a good omen.
So yeah, I wore the same, the little green and white kind of string thing that goes around your neck. I wore the same one, so I think I have to get to the final now, bring them a bit of luck.
Yeah, and you didn't settle for any premium level seats either. You were right down there on row 2, I think, at front of the Hogan.
I was blessed to get some good tickets. And myself and a friend, Pat Hardigan, and then I got an extra one and I brought Seamus McDonagh, the former boxer who fought Van der Holyfield, and brought him along with us too. So we had a great day, yeah, and it was incredible, incredible to watch. And I don't know, I might be stating the obvious, but it's such obviously the skill involved is unreal, but it's such a game of momentum and speed, and the guys are running at such a pace that the ball bounces one way, it comes off the hurl another way. You're kind of out of the match, and it's such a fine game, and it's just how easily it could easily swing either way. All top level sports, there's such a balance, it's just a fine edge. Yeah.
Would you be one of those fans who's up and you're almost like the 16th man, trying to get involved? It's kind of give me a stick there and I'll get out there.
Yeah, well, up on Hill 16 there was the Limerick chants. They were blaring them out, but and I was trying to. We got into it a little bit in the Hogan stand.
There you are up on the screen there with.
Oh
with the lads.
that's me and the lads. Seamus in the middle there and Pat. But
it's unbelievable, isn't it? Right in the middle of the Hogan when your team is in the white heat of battle like that.
Yeah, and we had a great angle. We just great angle to see the sliotar going over, and it was great. And one of them and I know obviously it was an amazing match, and Shane Down spoke so well, and we were all beaming after it. And then first of all, while I've been walking around Limerick, a year later he comes on, then Cranberries Linga comes on, and it was just it was unreal. Then it was just everyone was just smiling ear to ear and beaming after. It was just a magical moment.
Yeah, I can remember when the song came on, I was like, right, let's let Limerick have their moment. I walked out of the seats and I could just see a Cork fan literally crying into a pint of Guinness. It was such a melodramatic moment.
But the Cork fans were great too, and
they were.
I was sitting beside a couple of lads, and as soon as the match was over, they were saying, "Well done and good luck in the final. I hope you win it." So it was a great game, and something I know hurling's it's buzzing at the moment, and everyone's really up on it, and so it should be, but. When you get days like that, you think, oh, this is a great country. You do. You think both sets of fans in the stands before and after the match. We're in the Palace Bar, and there was no animosity at all, and that's the best of it, And
I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah.
That was very striking to me being there, because kind of like yourself, I wouldn't actually be there in the flesh for a lot of hurling games. It was probably the biggest hurling game I've ever actually been to. I just said I had to see what this was like, especially with the Limerick fans so rarely up in Croke Park in recent years, and same with Cork going up against them. And they were, I was writing about this for the website yesterday, it was just two sets of fans cheering for their team and really vocally cheering for their team, and no animosity towards the ref at all. It was amazing.
No, there was nothing. And even some Limerick lads was we were sitting beside, the referee gave us, when we were 6 points behind, he said, he'd give us a couple there, and it was brilliant. Yeah, it was. I just had to surmise it and put it into words, just a feeling, and then after, and when the song came on, and it was just kind of said, it was kind of perfect moment, so whoever was responsible for putting that on, fair play.
Right, it was a great shout, in fairness. Does the high flower reach fever pitch over the next couple of weeks? I'm sure it will for the fans. It's just whether or not it penetrates the camp.
So interesting what Shane Dowland said, and I just totally agree. As soon as he said it, I was like, yes, leave us alone for the next 3 weeks. And I don't even know if that was aimed at the media. Well, maybe it is, but I'd say it's more aimed at the people in the stands, because everyone would know those lads, would know them and would live near them or have a connection to them, or even local businesses would know them, maybe sponsor them. Just leave us alone. Don't be ringing us and looking for tickets, and let them do this. This is how long's it been since they've been in the final? So let them have it and let them give them the best opportunity to win the thing.
Yeah, Kieran Carey was on with us yesterday and he said 85 tickets exchanged his hands in, 94, I think it was. Like, that's an incredible number. That's changed, but even in 2007 you get the sense that it was incredible for Limerick as well, because like with the two finals in the 90s, they'd beaten Antrim, I think, on both occasions. So there was the actual glory of winning a proper semi-final, so to speak, in 2007, which they had this year as well. So, like as Shane Dowling said, I think he was really referring to 2007. Like I'm not sure where you were at that point. You were obviously kind of pro fighter at that time, so you might have been immersed in it all. I'm sure you were following it from afar. But I can only imagine what Limerick City was like in the build-up to the 07 final.
Well, now, like I rang my mother after the match. She was like, I had to turn it off. I couldn't even watch it. And now they're talking about putting up big screens in the city centre. So there'll be an incredible buzz around the place for the next while, and just a feel-good factor. And it's great for Limerick. Like in Limerick, it kind of needs that as a city. I think you need these. Like that's the one thing about sport. When things like this happen, it can lift a place. And it's just the positivity that goes around, and everyone's in good form, and it can lead on to have so many other like things can spin off it and have other benefits, like in terms of a city and I guess the feeling in the city and the economy and everything. Like people will be beaming and looking forward to the match, and they can build around this,
Yeah, it's hard to overestimate that as well. It's going to be some battle for tickets though over the next 3 weeks or so, isn't it?
No, yeah. I don't know, when's the appropriate time to start looking?
Once you get a finalist confirmed.
Yeah.
Who are you looking forward to playing? Who are you looking forward to beating in the final?
I don't know. I had like...
It's easier to get tickets. I think Clare might be a tad easier to get tickets for.
Well, that would, to me, I would like to see him play Clare. You want to probably challenge yourself against the best and beat the best. Galway being champions already, maybe that would be the route the players would want to take. But Clare being a neighbouring county, it could be good local rivalry.
Yeah, the Battle of the Shannon will be something special indeed. It's going to be great no matter what it is. It's going to be a great replay as well this Sunday in Thurles. I will be previewing that a little later on in the week. Just to tell you what's coming up on today's show, the sports page is coming your way in a moment. We'll be chatting a little bit more about Limerick on Sunday as well, about the sporting city that it is. We'll be getting into as well a great weekend of boxing that we've just seen from Kelly Taylor to Dillian Whyte, and we'll be speaking to the man himself, Dillian Whyte, in and around 9 o'clock. The Galway Races then coming up at 20 to 9. Johnny Ward will be with us to give you all your tips ahead of day 2 of the action and chat a little bit about Ruby Walsh, who is back in the saddle and, as is his wont, came back with a win yesterday in Ballybrit. But before all that, it is time for the back pages.
OTBAM. Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
So we'll start with the Irish Independent this morning. Erratic Mourinho feeling the Miami heat. Fears growing that United season could be undermined before it has even started. It is the story as old as time, Andy, where it's the third season of José Mourinho at a football club, and it is the season where things begin to crumble. It's so inevitable that this is going to end in tears.
Yeah, well, the only thing is that the first 2 years haven't gone that great, which is usually what happens in any kind of throws the toys out the pram and gets upset. But it's I don't know how many papers I have in front of me here, but nearly everyone carries a story about Mourinho and Mourinho meltdown. We'll go through it in a minute, but nearly it's across the papers, and it's worrying. I'm a United fan, but I don't know. It's kind of, why are these stories even coming out? Why are we even hearing about it? And well, I guess it's him who's making the public knowledge, but. Yeah, I don't know. It's like he's he's obviously trying to give himself an out.
Yeah. Because
he knows he probably can't compete with Man City, with Tottenham, and probably now with Liverpool as well.
Well, that's the thing. They're
probably down maybe 4th or 5th best, So he's probably trying to just manage expectations, but in all doing that, it's affecting the players. It seems. It's pre-season. They could go out and blow away the first couple of teams, and then it's all forgotten about. But at this moment, the signs don't look good.
What did you make of the Anthony Martial thing last week, where José Mourinho wasn't happy about Martial going to see the birth of his second child?
I don't know what's going on with Martial. You look at him, and he's one of the most talented young players in the world. Has to be. And this Mourinho just doesn't give him the light of day. He was our best player until Sanchez was signed. And then when Sanchez came in, it kind of got pushed out again. And I don't know, you'd question the management skills of Mourinho.
That's it, or to be able to mould a player.
Yeah, and when you see, obviously Luke Shaw is very famous, the case of Luke Shaw, other players who he singled out throughout the season, just, I don't know why. Like, is he trying to evoke some reaction? It obviously is, but a positive reaction. Is this the way to do it? I don't know if this is the best way to do it. Like, but it all seems to be centered around him and his ego and how it reflects on him. And it's, I don't know. I think he's deflecting from his own like downs, his like his failings and he's trying to put it onto the players, and it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder, do questions have to be asked to the board as well, though? They're giving this man the light of day. Like, ultimately, if you're being pushed around, well, it doesn't seem...
Well, when he was appointed manager, obviously, he had a great track record.
Yeah.
And you can't follow him in that, but the personality, he was signed for his personality and his character. You know, like, you had these big players in management at the time, and they needed somebody big, they needed the big name, and he fitted the bill. And he always wanted the United job anyway. He was flirting with it before David Moyes got it. He kind of was the one who would have got it, but I don't know. Like that, a lot of people are tipping him to be sacked soon, and I think had this been the end of last season, he might have gotten sacked. But I don't know. It's worrying for the club.
It looks like it's a miracle if he makes it to Christmas, I think. Just one other story in the back of the Irish Independent this morning. FAI decided to go solo with emergency safety net funds. So this is a story we were chatting a good bit about on the show last week. So the FAI have opted to create a League of Ireland emergency €300,000 emergency fund for players whose contracts aren't honoured by the club. So of course last Wednesday we had this statement announced by the FAI that there would be a 300 grand amount put into an escrow account, and half of that would be funded by the PFAI and half of that will be funded by the FAI. Stephen McGuinness, of course, was on OTBAM last week, and he said when he saw the statement from the FAI, that was the first he'd heard of it. But it seems Frank Gavin and co have done a U-turn in all of this, and that they will be creating an account entirely comprised of FAI funds. So just to kind of go into a little bit more detail on this. So the FAI claimed they chose to go solo after a deadline for the PFAI to respond had passed. So for them to respond to this FAI proposal and inform the clubs of the conditions attached to accessing the fund. And now these are the terms for accessing the fund. An immediate 6-point deduction will apply should a club be unable to pay their players on time and the fund is activated. And they will also have a transfer embargo imposed. And also, should that club not repay the monies by the end of the season, they will automatically be relegated with a registration ban applying for their first season in the First Division. So there is hampering circumstances attached to trying to tap into that fund, but at least the players get paid, or the players get paid, I should say. So it is better news to the situation we were in last week for sure. And then good news as well from a Galway perspective. The other story in the back of the Irish Independent: Tribe set for canning boost, but bad news then. McInerney, a doubt. They are saying Gerard McInerney will be fit for an All-Ireland final should they make it, but it looks like he's going to miss out on this weekend if those reports are to be believed. Now, the front page of Sports Tuesday on the Irish Times this morning is Jim McGuinness's column, Kingdom praying for a Galway win. And Dublin Roscommon game relegated into TV schedules. So that is the news yesterday that Dublin Roscommon is going to be put on RT News now, with the other two games, the hurling and the other Super 8s game, to be put on the main RT channels. The front page of the Irish Examiner sports section then this morning is circling the wagons, why John Kiley is right to put a lid on the hype. So this is interesting stuff, Andy. It's just to kind of read out some of Michael Moynihan's piece, which is the lead here in the Examiner. It was one of the stranger introductions to a post-game press conference. After their stirring win over Cork last Sunday, Limerick manager John Kiley began his dealings with the media with a threat to withdraw his team from dealings with the press in the event of a reporter contacting individual players. Don't roll your eyes, by the way. Moynihan says this isn't a plea for the sensitivities of the working press. It's not really a moaning piece from a journalist saying that the players should be given access. In fact, Moynihan agrees with John Kiley banning players from media duties or being contacted individually, which I guess from the base that Limerick have come from and some of the things they've seen in the past, you can't really blame John Kiley. You can kind of see where he's coming from to a certain extent.
Yeah, I know, and like, does it to speaking to the press of the team, it doesn't really. They don't need to promote it. And it's as a sports person, when you're training and you're in a high pressured situation like they are now, there will be pressure on them, like coming into the final, and every little decision they make has to only benefit their performance, and so to take 20 minutes on a phone call or to drive and meet somebody, take an hour or two out of your day, it's just time and energy that you don't need to be wasting when you can be using that to prepare for the final. Yeah, I know there's 3 weeks in it, and 20 minutes out of your day is not much, but it does add up. It does add up, and if you do one with somebody else, then you're gonna have to have. You can't just pick and choose as well. It's either a complete ban or you got your complete allowance of media work. So, I know you were announcing Shane Down yesterday morning. So this media ban must have come into effect pretty recently.
We may have individually contacted Shane Dowling. We may
so
or may
you're the reason. You're the reason.
But like, listen, from
all the other journals have you to thank.
Yeah. Some of the things that are detailed in that Moynihan's article there, just like opening petrol stations and stuff like that, the week of the All-Ireland final in 2007. Like, ordinarily, you might be a bit annoyed with this, but ultimately, this isn't an all-out media ban. It's a ban from individual journalists contacting the players.
Yeah, well, the thing is, with stuff like that, little obligations like that, there's a few quid in it for the players, and they might like, they might want that, but if they go ahead and win the match in 3 weeks' time, those things will be there for the whole team, So that's kind of what they kind of have to invest in themselves and say, like, okay, just say no tonight. It might be, whatever, $2,000 opening, say, appearance here or there, or opening a shop or something like that, media stuff. And that's a nice few quid, for little, no effort. But you got to say no. Like, if we win the match and try and win the match, because something like that could end, like, it wouldn't end up costing you. But in the long run, when you balance it out, you have to think, no, save myself. If we win it, then these things will be there.
Because, I do think as well, there's also a common misconception that the reason why this happens is because they might say something in the press that is outrageous, that might give the other team a leg up. But that's not the case, really. It's as you say, it's more the kind of thinking about doing the interview and the minutes out of your day. And I guess some players get nervous and a bit, like, there's a bit of consternation about what's going to be printed or
exactly.
what's going to be on the radio.
Anxiety, you're thinking like, I shouldn't have said that, and you're worried, and it's all a distraction.
Yeah.
Taking you away from the game, from the training.
Like, obviously, there will be the mandatory kind of commitments before the All-Ireland final. Much like I'm sure you would have seen it all the time yourself. It's like the mandatory part is, like, it's got heightened importance. It's far more important than you would have seen at any point in GAA. It's maybe getting more important, the press conferences before GAA matches, but obviously it's nothing on the level of boxing. And, like, I wonder, like, would you have ever felt like that sort of consternation as well, like, leading up to a fight? It's like, oh God, I got to deal with this press conference now beforehand.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time. It's just like a drain on your energies, and just like, it's a real like arduous, it's kind of a bane, like, you're like, oh no, like, you're just dragging yourself through it, and then you just build up a stockpile of, because you're answering the same questions every time, the exact same questions with every interview, and you have a stockpile of answers that you just kind of just rattle off. And it's like, we want that sports people, we want insight, we want to know what they're going through, you want them to open up. But in the case of Limerick, this is such a big event, like, and I don't want to put more pressure on it, because it is, but it is a big event for the city and for the county of Limerick. And just to hold yourself away for 3 weeks and say nothing, do what you have to do, and win the thing. You know what I mean? And that's, you can talk about it. People will be talking about it for the rest of the next 10, 15, 20 years, maybe 50 years. But we'll see. Just hold yourself away and do the job in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, that's certainly the way they've gone down anyway. The back page of the Times Ireland edition this morning goes with that Galway story as well. Galway, or McInerney rather, would be fit for the final. So that is that Gerard McInerney story, saying that if they did win the replay this Sunday, he should be back for the All-Ireland final in just under 3 weeks' time now. You've also got Pro 14 finals set for Celtic Park, and Stars returning against rules, which is an interesting one actually here. It's something that I wouldn't have even thought of, that the Premier League Stars returning to club duty early after the World Cup are breaching their own contracts amid concerns over player welfare and potential for injury. And you'll never guess what football club is at the centre of this. It is José Mourinho and Manchester United, the likes of Marcus Rashford, Phil Jones, and then for Chelsea, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, back in training just 2 weeks after returning from the World Cup.
Yeah, neither of them had major roles in the World Cup, where Jones probably would have played the most out of them. But yeah, I don't know. It's
I guess it's that idea of being inside in the centre of a camp for the majority of a summer.
Well, the three players mentioned, they all need to impress. They all need to kind of make a mark, and so they were trying to probably get one step ahead and to show their commitment.
Probably of their own volition as much as José Mourinho asking them back. The final newspaper for me this morning is the Racing Post. He's back, says the front of the newspaper. Easy game for Ruby at Galway. A rather aptly named horse for Ruby to get his comeback win on. Easy game yesterday, the winner at the first in Ballybrit. And José 6-5. Not to last season. They're pretty good odds. I like my chance of putting a fiver in José not to last the season. The next Premier League manager to leave post, best prices. So José Mourinho is 7-1. Carlos Puel is 8-1, as is Neil Warnock and Javi Gracia. So José Mourinho favourite to be the next manager.
Neil Warnock's back in the Prem. Neil Warnock's back in the Premiership.
Yes, he is. Yeah, with Cardiff. It's going to be great. It's going to be a fun season. Just looking for the gleeful smile on Neil Warnock when he is the last manager that José Mourinho faces before he gets the sack.
Oh my God.
Are you a fan?
I can't say I'm a fan, no. I can't say I'm a fan. But he's a colourful character, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly is.
A character.
Just up on screen at the moment, we've got the Irish News. Bonner sent us huge chance to seize All-Ireland final slot. So that is the preview for Ballybofey on Sunday. I'm not sure if Donegal or Tyrone are thinking about an All-Ireland final at this point, to be honest, because it's a huge game for them on Sunday. The winner basically gets knocked out, or the winner gets through to the All-Ireland semi-final, and the loser's championship is done. It's as simple as that. If they win, Donegal will be up against, more than likely, Galway. Whoever wins basically in Salt Hill on Sunday, if Donegal wins. So I guess they would be on the easier side of the draw. They will have obviously avoided Dublin. They will have avoided Kerry if they get through. There's also that Tyson Fury story there on the front of the Irish News. Tyson Fury not calling out Deontay Wilder, saying that the Deontay Wilder fight is agreed.
Yeah, apparently Frank Warren was on TalkSport yesterday morning, and he confirmed it there that they're in talks with Wilder. So we'll maybe get into it a little bit later. But the heavyweight division is really interesting at the moment, and it's real. There's a lot of. It's kind of stacked, and there's some real players in there, and Dillian Whyte being one of them. That it's kind of, as much as the fighting is exciting, some of the political stuff outside of it and the management stuff outside of it and the promotional stuff is just as entertaining. And of course we had that protracted long back and forth kind of played out in the media between Eddie Hearn and Shelley Finkel about the Wilder and Anthony Joshua kind of thing. Was it going to happen? Was there a 50 million offer to Joshua from Wilder? It was reputed that it was on the table, then it wasn't on the table, and both sides are going back. And ultimately, the fight didn't happen. Josh was due to fight Povetkin, which is a tough fight, and now Fury says that he's in negotiations to fight Wilder. So it's interesting. It's a lot like if Fury's back to his best, he could beat, and I'd favour him to beat Wilder.
Would you?
But it kind of puts added pressure on his fight now with Pianetta, because no one was kind of putting pressure on Tyson Fury before this. Like, he had his comeback fight and it wasn't much of a fight, and he's promised to take this next one serious, and like there was no, like, he could have probably took 3 or 4 fights to box himself back into contention, sharpness and fitness. But if he's willing to step in with Wilder before the end of the year, then he's shown great belief in himself. And he's kind of, he's kind of taking a lead on. He's kind of stealing the thunder from Joshua as well. So there's all that in play as well. So yeah, it's an interesting scene.
It feels like we're in kind of episode 2 or 3 of a very good TV series, and we're hurtling towards the middle of the season when things are about to hot up. There's just a couple of more intermediate fights that are required here and there, and that this time next year we could be looking around and saying we're borderline on a golden age of heavyweight excitement. Maybe not.
We're there. We're right on it right now. When you look, obviously Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte, and then you look, Delboy Chisora came back, Derek Chisora, and had a great win, beat Carlos Takam, who pushed Joshua, and they had a great fight and he knocked him out. And then you have Tony Bellew, who's an outside player, who's still there and still has to be reckoned with, beat David Hay twice. And then you have Alexander Usyk, who's the unified cruiserweight champion. He's talking about moving up to heavyweight, and there's a potential that him and Bellew will fight before the end of the year. And then the winner of that will have to be considered a serious challenger to any of the champions. So you got Jared Miller in America. There's some great fighters out there, and some great fights to be made in the heavyweight division. You got Daniel Dubois coming up. It's it's a stacked division. Yeah,
it's going to be good, and we will have Dillian Whyte on the show a little bit later on. He'll be joining us in and around 9 o'clock. Any questions for him, by the way, you can tweet us at Off The Ball. You can comment on the stream if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. Andy, what's going on in the rest of the papers?
Well, like we said, across the board, it's dominated by Mourinho and his apparent meltdown. Mourinho meltdown. This is on, what have we got here? The Daily Telegraph. Mourinho meltdown. United players now alarmed by manager's erratic behaviour and fear of becoming the next target. And it's across the board.
It must be weird for the players.
Yeah, the sport, the Sun, sport, man down. Stars are worried about grumpy José. It's all, and like you look around. The other teams, man up, Spain, Legend Villa, Pep City are ready for Champions League glory. They're all positive.
Yeah. And
so it can only be even more alarming for the United players and the United fans, me included. United on the edge. This is the Daily Star. Concern among players of Marine. So it's all across the board. You know, ticket frenzy in Clare. They're looking for tickets for Assemble Stadium. It's going to be a 36,300 sellout.
Yeah, it's going to be. I've never actually seen that for sort of a replay like that. Queues down the street. We rarely see it anymore. Anyway, in life.
Just after the first match, everybody wants to be there, don't they? Easy night for Ruby. He's back to winning ways. It's great to see.
Yeah, we'll get Johnny Ward's taking that a little bit later on. Just straight back from an injury. It's it must take some sort of level of confidence, borderline insanity to get back up on the horse and say, I'm going to be okay here, because you need to have that mentality of saying...
Is he come back from a leg break?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like the one that he aggravated, like he's injured it twice. He came back from the serious injury at Cheltenham, or at Thurles, then rode at Cheltenham a week later and did it on day 2 of Cheltenham. And he's been out for since Cheltenham up until this week. So to actually put yourself into the mindset to say, I'm going to be okay. To get up on the horse is one thing, but to say I'm going to be okay to ride at the best I can and at the full throttle.
You'd have to ask yourself, I'm sure someone should. I'm not get into it with him, but why? Why would like a leg break? It's not something it's something that really disables you in life. You know what I mean? Like that, and then you want to get back up on the horse and run. Like it's dangerous enough, and then consider you broke your leg twice. Like fair play to him. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's good to have him back though. There's plenty more. It's another 6 days of racing at Galway on the flat and over hurdles. So I think it's like José pretty much everywhere in the rest of the tabloids.
Yeah, exactly, across the board. This is the Mirror Sport. What a United state. Mourinho's moods have put his players on the edge with 10 days left to the Prem kickoff. 10 days left.
But we were just saying this before we came on air. It doesn't feel like there was any off season. Like you were saying that it's time to take 1 month off from your Sky Sports subscription.
Yeah,
but
I'm sick of paying the €90 a month, so I was going to cancel my Sky, but then I realised, I better keep it now for the start.
Too late.
Yeah. So they've got me again.
What are your general hopes ahead of United season? Like if they manage to...
They have to challenge this is his third season involved. Like look at the squad. Like you have to look at the squad. Like, and he can moan all he wants. Maybe the defense is not up to par, but across everywhere else they're in attack there, and they should try and focus on that. But that's not Mourinho's game. He's not an attacking manager. But they have to challenge. They have to challenge this year. At least I don't know if they'll be in contention because City might run away with it again. But they have to be up there at least.
Can they possibly do it with him in charge though? Doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like it's going to.
It has to be a big shift in the dynamic or the mood, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be gone in the negative at the moment.
Yeah, very much so. I think the Herald this morning are going with the Dubs ahead of their dead rubber this weekend.
Yeah, James B. Cole. Gavin can afford to stick a twist in Roscommon. So it's just basically, does he play the same team or does he mix it up? There's not much in that. And also the FAI created emergency fee for €100,000 fund for players, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah,
it's probably a really good thing. Yeah.
In fairness, it was a bit of a stark warning last week when the PFAI kind of woke up and turned on their email inboxes, and it turned out they had to pay 150 grand from their own players' wages to fund their own players' wages, so that would have been a rather grim scenario, but it seems that that's turned around. We will be talking a little bit more about the boxing in a while, and we will of course be focusing on Ballybrit later on with Johnny Ward. Before all that though, here is Shane McGrath. He was speaking to Joe and the lads on last night's Off The Ball and speaking about the city of Limerick as a sporting home of gods.
I've been working in Limerick now for the last 9-10 years or so, and they have a tendency to get maybe carried away, and they have a big city in there as well, and maybe a lot of people having a huge hurling knowledge in around that they only know that they're in the final now, and these are the kind of people that are kind of going to drive the hype through the roof. But I think you have a bunch of players there now, Joe, that are used to winning. You have guys that have All-Ireland club medals in the Limerick squad, have colleges medals, have minor medals, under 21 medals. These guys are used to winning All-Irelands. It's not that they're going to be fazed by that. Obviously, it's going to be the biggest stage of all, but I think that they'll get all that parked up now in the next week, the tickets and all that, and get the suits organised, and get the girlfriends' bags up to the hotels there the few days beforehand, and not be worrying about those things, because they can be sometimes for some of the players, where things are going and how they're getting there. But I think it's whatever works for you. I heard Jackie talking the other day that he always watched up for the match.
Yeah.
I always watched up for the match too. I thought there's a bit of crack, and it's great when you're involved. And you said it already, Joe. I think you hit the nail on the head. 07, I think Limerick went up in hope more than anything, because they played the greatest hurling team ever to play, and that's from someone who has lost a few All-Irelands as well. And they're going up this time, I think, fully believing that they can win this, because they have a great squad. And I think that's the difference for the players now. They're used to winning. They'll be fine. Let everyone else worry about what's going on in the back on the outside with all the media and all that crack. But they'll be fine. And I think this bunch of players are really looking forward to the build-up and to the All-Ireland final.
Yeah, Shane McGrath there speaking on Off the Ball last night about Limerick. It's brilliant. We always compliment the Limerick fans because A, it's a little bit rare that we actually get to see them in the heat of battle at this stage of the championship, certainly in the modern era, but B, because they're also brilliant fans.
Yeah, it's a great sport. Like he said, it's a sporting city, and it is a sporting city. It was a sporting capital of Ireland for a while, and that's what it named itself. When you think of the Munster rugby team, but Limerick hurling has always been a part of the city, and part of the county. But the last few years, it's kind of, it's fell off. They haven't been there like the success they've had in the past. But it's great to see them back now, and this young team, the way they play, the sense of belief they have, that it looks like they're going to be around for a while. Like it doesn't seem to be any fear or doubt that this is where they belong on this stage. And yeah, it was great to see it.
Would you have felt the handprint of the Limerick fans when you were fighting abroad?
Yeah, a lot of time when I fight in America, guys would have travelled, and would have brought the Limerick flag, and you'd see it from the ring after a fight or that. So, and it was always nice to see somebody from Limerick, and the fact that they'd taken the time to travel. Yeah, fantastic. Like the fights I had in Limerick, they were some of the best fights and times, periods, like in the week before, the support from everybody across the board, and just the feeling that they're behind you. And it's great to know that your own are behind, you're that people who from your own city are behind you,
Because you do get the sense that, of course, like with every city, there's pockets that are more intense rugby fans, more intense GA fans, etc., etc. But it does seem Limerick, more than many other cities, it kind of features a lot of fans who are sports fans, who support their own no matter what the sport is.
Yeah, it does. And I think, sport has always been a positive thing to come out of Limerick. Limerick as a city and as a county may not have the best reputation. In the past, historically, wouldn't have had the best reputation, a lot of negative stories, but sport has always been a positive story.
Definitely.
And they great sports supporters. So it's hard to surmise it, but they will follow. If there's a positive story, they'll get behind you. And in matches like matches like Sunday, and maybe in matches that'll come in 3 weeks, that they can make the difference. They can make the difference. Hill 16 was covered in green and white, and there was lads with their shirts off and they were bouncing around. I'm sure the players are aware of that. They're watching it, and the chance of come on Limerick, it could be heard all over the place.
Yeah, there was a great photograph actually put up yesterday on Info Sports of fans just kind of rubbing their eyes because there was a flare let off in the terrace and everybody just couldn't see. I think though it was the Cork fans. It seems like a Cork thing to do, to let off flares. I'm not sure why I think that. It just is. As you can imagine, obviously the excitement during Sunday's All-Ireland semi-final over Limerick Live 95 was something else. We didn't manage to bring you this yesterday, so here it is now. It's former Limerick hurler Donal O'Grady, joined by Don O'Sullivan. Enjoy.
Flanagan come along the end line, looked like a puck across the top of the head, hit towards Keane Lynch on the 14-yard line. Surely another goal chance for Limerick. Yeah! Lynch to the back of the line, and Limerick get the goal they deserve for all their efforts so far. 36 minutes on the clock. Limerick won 12, Cork 14 points. A free already made. It's going to curl. I'm curling my right shoulder trying to get it to go over the bar, and out we come with the Hawkeye once more.
Go away, Hawkeye, straight over the net. Great score by Dowling, and I tell you, he's made a great impact since coming on.
I don't think this is the time to tell Donald O'Grady the Hawkeye's a computer and you can't tell it to go away.
We're all getting mad here.
Peter Casey's out on the far side, he's too far out. And pass it back out towards Aaron Gallan. Can he get under possession? He can't. Looks like he's fouled. Gallan has loads of time. Gallan lifts it and strikes it. Limerick and Lovell is right. 6 in a row for the men from the Shannon side. It's 126 to 126. What a game of hurling. What a game, full stop.
All I can see is the place has gone green and white. It's time we drive it on now. Great catch.
126 to 126. Cork on the attack on the far side. Cork with Flynn trying to make it in towards goal. That pass off here towards full forward.
What a save.
Nicky Quaid takes it off the hand of Seamus Hardley. Free blows the final whistle. And it's 127 to 127. The pharmacist. Some medicine in this if he puts it in. 130 to 129. Shane Dowling lifts this and strikes it. Has to strike it before it hits the 21. Strikes it to the back of the net. And Shane Dowling leaves the hill 16 with the fist pump. And Cool goes up on the scoreboard.
What an impact, Dowling. He had the balls to go for it. And by God did he stick it.
Pat Ryan down to Doon, all the way up across the far side of the ball, made outside in the CBS. Pat Ryan in along the end line, ahead of his man as he has to pick it up. Pat Ryan he'll finish it here if it goes towards the net. Pat Ryan goal for Limerick, Pat Ryan! He wants the referee pull of the wire, blows the final whistle. Limerick are in the All-Ireland final on August 19th. Limerick 332, Cork 231.
Like, part of me kind of feels sorry for anybody with a beating heart from Limerick after that, because there was 5 or 6 moments where I would have gone, if I was a Limerick fan, completely apeshit. Like, which was the moment for you that was like number one?
I think when Shane Dowling put that in, it was kind of like, we've got this now.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, when the ref gave the penalty, I think like he had to give it. Like, but like it was a bit of moment there where he was thinking about it, like, and then he's giving it, and then for him to step up and just bury it like that, and there was no sign of doubt. Like, he just buried it, and we went crazy. We were jumping around, hugging each other, like, you know, Seamus McDonagh was beside me. I'd only met him once previously. we left the place like we were best friends. But that was a great little clip there, and it's really that kind of captured the emotion and the feeling in the stands, and I'm sure in the city, like, you know, in Limerick and in the county, I'm sure that was a feeling.
There is Shane Dowling on screen. Great line there in commentary, the pharmacist Shane Dowling. Like, I know John Kiley's told everybody in Limerick, you know, leave the players alone, but if I'm in Limerick and, you know, I need to pick up a bottle of Motilium, I'm Dowling's Pharmacy or whatever it may be is the most convenient pharmacy for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, even if it's 10 miles out of your way, you're calling in.
Yeah.
To say well done and maybe get a little selfie. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's going to be great though. That's all going to be relatively harmless. They'll all have the lines not prepared, but they'll be used to saying, "Our training is going well. Yeah, we'll keep the head down over the next couple of weeks and get on with it." Like, a lot of these people are in public-facing jobs. It just has to be done. You are watching OTBAM, by the way. It is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. Still to come up later on today, Dillian Whyte will be joining us at around 9 a.m. and Johnny Ward will be giving you all your tips for day 2 of Ballybrit. We do want to talk a little bit more about the boxing from the weekend at the moment, though. We're going to chat Katie Taylor in a moment. But before we get to Dillian Whyte a little bit later on, obviously, as you probably can guess, it was Andy who put in the call for us. Thank you very much for that, Andy, this morning. Because, like, you would have been in the same gym with Dillian Whyte a couple of times during your career?
Yeah, we would. He's from South London, so he's from Brixton, and we would have been based in Purley. So there was a lot of times when we'd be in the gym. His former coach was Chris Oko, cruiserweight fighter, and good friends with Adam. So we would see him in the gym a lot, and he would have sparred with Richard Towers a lot, and and he hasn't. I haven't seen him maybe in 2 years, but he doesn't seem to have changed. Like, this new level of fame and success, he seems to be as happy and as carefree as ever. And he's turned himself into a really serious fighter now. He's a real, he's a contender for the heavyweight title. Like, if he gets the right fight, like he fought Anthony Joshua, and it was probably early in both of their careers for that fight to happen. For it to happen now, it would be a much bigger fight, and it would be more. Dillian would pose a more considerable challenge, even though the first fight, so far he's been the only one to, apart from Klitschko, been the only one to really hurt Joshua and really rattled him in that fight. And I know they're rivals, and I'm not sure if he'll fight again before the end of the year. Dillian Whyte, I'm not sure what his plan is. We can ask him, but I think a fight between him and Joshua again early next year, if the other fights don't materialise that they're talking about, could be a real good fight.
Did you see that result coming on Saturday night and the manner in which Whyte was dominant for a lot of it?
I found it very hard to call the fight because I was thinking, Parker, he's quite fast and he's smaller and he's busy and he has good boxing ability, but I could never see him really getting past Dillian Whyte's jab. So I thought that Dillian Whyte's jab would nullify Parker's busyness and activity. And they both were jabbing well in the fight. One thing that Whyte was doing was when Parker early on was choosing to throw a right hook to the body, and he landed the first few times, but then as soon as he did it instinctively, or he saw Dillian, which is a sign of a good fighter, he started catching it with his left hand and throwing back his own left hook, and that proved to be one of the most telling punches in the fight. And I think he scored a couple of knockdowns from that one punch, and it was kind of echoed across the commentary that Dillian Whyte wanted it more. And I think that kind of does him a disservice, because to say that Parker didn't want it, I think that Dillian Whyte was just bigger, better. He outjabbed him and outfought him. And maybe he did want it a bit more, but not to take away from Parker, because Parker, as I said before, a lot of people chose Parker to win the fight. A lot of the pundits were choosing Parker to win the fight, but I found it very hard to call. And Dillian Whyte got the job done, and it was an epic fight, epic fight, yeah.
Yeah, the commentary team really tore into Parker in and around rounds 9, 10.
Yeah, I thought they were a bit harsh. When you're sitting outside, it's very easy, and it's very easy to pass judgment. But these guys are landing heavy blows, and it's very hard to tell the effects, because sometimes a fight you can mask those effects, and a punch may hurt you, but you don't let it show, and people outside can't see it, and they wonder why he's backing off and moving away. It's because he was getting hurt, and he was getting put under pressure.
Look, what is Dillian Whyte thinking in round 12 when it's very evident that one more punch would have ended him?
Yeah, well, he'd probably dispute that, but
sure.
Parker rallied in the final round, and people were saying it was maybe a bit too late, that he should have done it earlier. But if he'd done it early, he would have left himself exposed to being caught with a punch, and he might have been down. His fight might have been over before the end. So Whyte showed another. I don't know if it was experience but he was very quick and very clever, and he held and he tied the man up, and that's, whatever you might say, that's part of professional boxing, and knowing when to do that. It's a real ploy, and it's something that you must use as a professional boxer at the right time.
Like in general, for example, from your perspective, what would you have been thinking when you're there and you're like, your opponent is probably beyond the age, especially in fights that you would have been winning or about to win or about to outlast your opponent, but at the same time, you're in the depths of hell at that point. Yeah. Like, what's going through your mind? Is it, like, how do you train the mind to actually just be conditioned to survival and survival only?
Yeah, well, in that fight, Whyte held, but then he fought back, and sometimes that's what you can do. You can fight fire with fire, and sometimes your best defense is an offense, and showing your opponent that there's still a threat there, and that's what Dillian Whyte did. He showed that there was still a threat there, so Parker was reluctant to just wade in and go for the finish, and but a thrilling fight and a great end to the fight. But the fight was a solid fight, and it was a world-class heavyweight fight the whole way through.
It was. It looks like the Wilder Fury fight might be on. Have a look at this. This is from Tyson Fury's Twitter account, I think, yesterday afternoon.
Just a quick one. I can confirm that me and Deontay Wilder are in negotiations, very close to being done. Frank told you all on TalkSport this morning. The breakfast show, whatever it was, I'm not too sure, but it is out there now, and I can reveal that negotiations are being very strong for December. We're almost done with this deal, but I won't be looking over Francesco Pianetta. He's going to give me the right fight and the right work to prepare me for Deontay Wilder. I've got to flatten him first, and then Wilder, let's dance.
Right, part of me kind of believes Tyson Fury there. Part of me believes that this fight is on.
I wouldn't doubt them if Frank Warren's come out and said it publicly, and he is. The only benefit to him coming out and saying it's on, that they are in negotiations, is just a little bit of publicity and hype, and I don't think he needs that. So I think that they're serious when they say they're in negotiations with Wilder. And it would be sensational for Fury to step back into the ring and challenge for the heavyweight title after just 2 comeback fights, after being off for like 2 years, or maybe 2.5 years. So yeah, the heavyweight scene is heating up, and if Fury can get back to his best, he's a real player. Like he's probably the man to beat, you know.
Yeah,
but it depends on how he looks. It's a real risk announcing that they're talking to Wilder. It's funny because Frank Warren was on TalkSport yesterday morning, and Tony Bellew was co-hosting the show, and they had this back and forth where they were arguing whether Wilder's camp had actually offered Joshua the $50 million contract to fight in America. A few months ago, there was back and forth when it looked like Anthony Joshua would fight Wilder. Ultimately, it didn't end up happening, but in the midst of all that, there was this kind of, it was played out on social media. Eddie Hearn and Sheddy Finkel, it was actually Deontay Wilder. They were going back and forth saying, we've offered you the money, show the contract, and Eddie Hearn was saying, send me the contract, I haven't seen it, and it was this whole saga. Ultimately, the fight didn't happen, but now Fury is going to step in and kind of jump the queue. It will be sensational. It would be quite sensational, yeah.
Like you mentioned the break there, at heavyweight, I wonder, does that kind of hamper you, or does that give you a massive boost, having that 2 years off?
No, well, for Fury, he got completely out of shape. I think we all saw the photos circulating and how heavy he got. He lost 7 stone for his last fight, and he was still completely overweight and out of shape. So that's part of his journey as well. And I thought had he had took maybe 2 or 3 more fights before challenging one of the champions, would probably be the way to go. But if he feels he's ready now, and I seen another post that he put up, he's saying like, none of these guys want to fight Wilder, but I'm the man to step up. So as well as he's doing it for himself, it's also kind of like a kind of a backhand to Joshua and saying that I'll step in and take the fight because you're not ready for it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just given how out of shape you felt he was for the last fight, like, is this Deontay Wilder fight coming too soon for him? Say it happens in November this year. Is that too soon for Fury to be in shape?
He's looking increasingly, with every post I'm only seeing it, he's looking in better and better shape. The clips are, he's looking really good on the pads. He's looking very sharp. And he has the ability to do what other heavyweights can't do. He's such a big man, but he can box and he can move. He almost fights like a middleweight in a heavyweight's frame. And now, it depends how he looks. I think he's fighting August 18th in Belfast on the Carl Frampton card. And he's fighting Francesco Pianetta, who's a big man himself, not the most mobile, but a solid fighter who's fought for the heavyweight title before. So it depends. If he comes out and looks good, then it'll be all guns blazing, and he'll be full of confidence going in to fight Wilder. Fury is a man with he's unshakable self-belief. When he's on form, and when he's like, I know he's talked about having mental health issues before and depression, and I've spent time with him, and sometimes it's from day to day. One minute he wants to quit boxing and thinks that he's useless. The next minute he thinks he's going to be champion of the world, and when he says he's going to be champion of the world, this would have been 5 or 6 years ago, you really, really believed him. And when he's on that form, when he's in that vein of thinking that I can beat anybody, I don't see anybody out there really going to stop him. He's formidable.
Does somebody like Anthony Joshua have that level of self-belief that can be automatically translated into...
I don't know. He probably does, but he doesn't say it as openly as Tyson. And like Muhammad Ali, and like other fighters, when they're saying these things in public, they're saying it in public, but they're also speaking to themselves. They're kind of saying it as an affirmation and kind of using it to build themselves as well. And that I've said this in public now, I have to back it up, but they're reaffirming it with themselves, yeah.
It's interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one plays out now over the next couple of months, because, like, after we saw on Saturday night, I do wonder, did the entire boxing world completely underrate Dillian Whyte? Like, is there a chance, and this is just pure speculation on my part, that Dillian Whyte came up against the very best version of Anthony Joshua in the pro ranks? Obviously, Whyte beat him in the amateur ranks, but in the pro ranks, and that Joshua, again, pure speculation, that he could be on an early wane in his career, maybe because of, I don't know what it might be, maybe wane is too strong a word, but peak Joshua was for the Whyte fight.
No, I think he fought, it definitely suited Joshua to fight Whyte at that stage. Whyte was still very much learning his trade, and he didn't have a great amateur background. He's had a background in kickboxing. But like I feel if Deontay Wilder and Whyte fought, to me it's a toss-up. Right. Wilder's a huge puncher. He's big. He's unorthodox. But Dillian Whyte is a serious fighter. They call him the body snatcher. He's got great body punches, and some of those shots, like the headshots, they're spectacular and they usually cause knockdowns. But the body shots that Whyte was landing throughout that fight against Parker, that was the reason why he was moving more laboured, because he was probably feeling it from the body shots. His ribs were probably sore and his breathing was heavy, and that's all from that body work. And I don't know. Dillian Whyte's a serious contender. He's up there. He's number one challenger now. He's beaten Joseph Parker, and he's beaten Lucas Brown. There's nobody else out there for him to beat. They're the two. Like Lucas Brown was an eliminator, and Parker's just been the champion. Who else is there for him to fight?
Yeah, it's true. He will be on the show, of course, this morning. If you're only just joining us, you can get any questions in you have to @OffTheBall on Twitter. You can comment on the YouTube or Facebook stream. We do want to chat Katie Taylor as well. Obviously, another great win for her on Saturday. 10-0 at this point. She picked up a black eye, but you can't really count that out. That's the only thing you can say against her, and it was probably a pure freak accident almost, that mini injury. And you could see the kind of respect that Kimberly Connor had for her afterwards. Like she was fawning over Katie Taylor, really, and it shows the greatness with which Katie Taylor is viewed within the women's boxing scene. We can see it on screen now. Like Katie Taylor, you feel that she's edging closer to that super fight that she needs, that there is one or two boxers in the world that can give her that super fight, and ultimately there might be the potential of a fight back home here in Ireland.
Yeah, I don't even know if she will get that super fight, because she's so far ahead of everybody that I think when you see Katie fighting, I think we have to just take her. She's a special talent. She always has been, and she's an ambassador for boxing and for female boxing. And like in that clip, Kimberly Connor says, "You're living my dream."
Yeah,
it's great to see. It's great to see you doing this for women and for women boxers. And so she's kind of filling that role. Now there's talk of these Serrano sisters who are promoted by Lou DiBella. They're Puerto Rican born, but they're based in New York, and they're tough fighters. They both beat Kimberly Connor. And there's been a little bit of smack talk back and forth. And then Katie's retaliated herself, saying that if they want it, I'll fight both of them in the same night. So it's great to see that side of Katie too, because we don't usually see that kind of little bit of a bite back. So potentially those are big fights for her. There's also Dalveen, the Danish fighter.
Yeah.
And then Heather Hardy, I think, is still a good fight for Katie. Not because she'll pose a huge challenge, but because she's a big name in America. And she's based on the East Coast, and that's a good fight for Katie, I think.
Right, okay. Like, because a couple of the names that we mentioned is Rosa Valente, the WBO champions. That'll be a unification bout.
Yeah. The only reason to fight her is the belt.
Right,
and
okay.
I think Katie does want to clean up the belt, so that would be a good reason.
It'll be an easy win, though, will it?
Yeah. Katie's far and above all of these in terms of talent.
Okay. The other one then is Cecilia Brækhus. Now this is a very different situation because she's a lot heavier.
Yeah, I can't like she's a serious fighter. She's Katie Taylor without the the Olympic background and the level of, she doesn't have the backing like of the Irish people, of like the German people like we have Katie. Katie's a household name here, and I'm sure she's well known in Germany, but outside of Germany she's not really that well known. But she's a serious fighter, Cecilia Brækhus, yeah.
Do you think that Katie Taylor would kind of consider a vast change in weight to make this fight happen if that kind of hype was there? But you're saying now it's probably not going to be that big a hype.
No, it would be the biggest fight between two females in the history of boxing. But it's just there's such a weight difference there. And an age difference, and I don't think Katie needs to go up to fight her. Why risk it? If she wants to come down to fight Katie, then by all means. But I think there's quite a few pounds in the difference. Isn't she fight at middleweight, light middleweight? Yeah. Brækhus, and Katie's only a lightweight, so there's a huge difference there in weight.
Yeah, it's massive. It has been something that's been touted, and of course, as you mentioned there, Katie saying that she would fight both Serrano sisters if they wanted, which is a great line. Like the other, we were having this conversation on the show yesterday with Shane, and kind of this idea of Taylor fighting in Ireland one day as a professional. Like you can't see her headlining a card here, can you?
No, I don't think so. It would be great. And maybe in a couple of years the landscape will change, but right now boxing in Ireland is not live professional boxing. It's still taking place. There are fights in Ireland, but it's more at the grassroots level. I don't think there's the appetite for big fights yet. But if she was to get, if they can build the Serrano sisters or have a Hardy and build their profile, and in a couple of years get one of them to fight here, it could be a good seller. Yeah.
How much of this is down to Eddie Hearn and his promotion of Katie Taylor? It kind of sounds like it's the promotion of everybody else in the world that Katie Taylor's been looked after in the right way.
He's doing a fantastic job, and she's fighting very regularly and she's fighting very often, but she has the talent. You know, your talent dictates how fast you can be moved in the sport, especially sport of boxing, and she's always been she's always had, from the amateurs, she had that talent and that ability to box at a level beyond what's out there. Her biggest problem is that there's a lack of depth in female boxing and in her weight category. There's 2 or 3 fighters that might challenge her.
Yeah.
That will challenge her, but I can't see him beating her because she's so far ahead of everybody.
Like, you do wonder, like, if she's just come along at the wrong time, she's just been too early. Like, you look at Kimberly Connor's words there, that Katie Taylor might be viewed as a legend of the women's boxing game in decades to come, that she paved the way for...
But I don't think she needs a Greek rival. I think we can just stand and appreciate her for what she's doing. And it's not that she's a female boxer. If she was a male boxer doing what she was doing in terms of her skill and how she dominated opponents, she'd be appreciated. All her fights are exciting, even if she's dominating them. She's never afraid to trade. It's not like she boxes out and gets boring decision wins. She trades, and she gives opponents chances to hit her, and she does take shots, but she always wins. And I think we should just appreciate her for what she is. And she might get that big fight, that big rivalry fight, but if she doesn't, I don't think it's not a black mark on her career, because it's something special. She's a first of a kind, and she might be the only one of a kind. But so we should just appreciate her while she's here and while she's doing what she's doing.
Andy Dunleavy's been in touch via Facebook, I think. Andy, do you think fighting Holly Holm would be considered a super fight, or just for money, like McGregor versus Mayweather?
No, it's a serious fight, because Holly Holm, her background is boxing. She was a boxer before she was in MMA. I think the fight might have lost a little bit of the excitement around it. If they could have pushed it, already, or been pushing it already in terms of, well, I'm sure if the fight gets announced, they'll be highlighting that win over Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm's win over Ronda Rousey, and that was a huge moment for her. So yeah, I don't think it's a Mayweather-McGregor kind of crossover fight. It's a real boxing fight, because Holly Holmes is a real boxer.
Cool. We'll put more questions to you before the end of the show. If you want to get in touch, you can tweet us at Off The Ball. You can comment on Facebook or on YouTube. We're going to cross over to Johnny Ward and Ballybrit in just a moment. Before that, here is Cork boss John Myler. He was on the show with Joe last night.
I hate losing. I'm up this morning early. You're scratching your head. What did you do wrong? Why? What could you have done better? I've no interest in classics. I've an interest in winning. And, if we had won 9-8, I'd be happy with that. And you guys saying that it was the worst game of hurling of all time. As a manager is under pressure in today's environment to win matches. And that's what we have to do. We have to win matches. And that is our focus. So, John Kiley's going into an All-Ireland final. I'm going looking at the sun somewhere, or going to a match or something like that. That's all. He has a focus now for another month. I don't. And to be part of probably the best hurling championship of all time this year, I take comfort out of that, but not out of losing yesterday. And where you made the point yourself, we need another 2 or 3 more players, to have more strength and depth, and that's what we really need to find in the next few weeks now in club championship here in Cork.
Yeah, John Myler there speaking to Joe on the show last night. You can get the full podcast on iTunes or on any of your Android apps. Just search for GEA on Off The Ball and it'll appear there. You can watch it all back as well on youtube.com/Off The Ball. Now it's time to turn to the Galway Races. Johnny Ward is standing by in Ballybrit. Good morning to you, Johnny.
Morning, Owen. How are you?
Very well. So Ruby Walsh, he's back. We were chatting about him yesterday, whether or not he would come back to winning ways, and sure enough, he did it.
Yeah, and well-named easy game, won the first race yesterday for Ruby. You know, he hadn't been seen since Cheltenham. He's had a terrible time with injuries, and this is probably a nice race for him to start back in. A horse that jumps really well, and it was very straightforward for Ruby. He just put the horse prominent in the race. As I said, he jumped quite cleanly, and he just held on the run-in. And it was interesting afterwards. He got a very good reception from the Galway crowd. I think they appreciate, you know, that maybe Ruby isn't going to be around forever, and we have to cherish him when he's there. And I remember speaking to Willie Mullins afterwards and saying, would Ruby be a bit more selective with his rides now? And Willie's response was, you know, I'll be a bit more selective for him. So you could probably see that he's going to use him a little bit, maybe more sparingly, use him for the better rides, like the one yesterday, an easy game, and maybe less so on sort of the bad handicap horses or whatever. But not that Willie has too many of them. But certainly you just hope that Ruby gets a good run of it with injury. Now, Rachel Blackmore is the leading rider at the moment, and I think the title race could be quite open this season. But, you know, to have Ruby back was something I think that Galway fans definitely cherished yesterday.
Yeah, like when it comes to the selective riding, then is it more going to be a feature of Ruby Walsh's career now, or this is just for a temporary solution until he's back and fully fit?
No, I think this will be it. You know, Ruby's in his late 30s. You know, for a jumps jockey, you are kind of nearing the end at that stage. You know, not that many jumps jockeys can ride into their 40s to any great degree of success. Paul Carberry did it, but he was limited enough in terms of what he could actually do because of the injuries he sustained. And even Tony McCoy, you know, he probably pulled out at what he deemed to be the right time. You know, these lads have a hell of a lot of war wounds, and they certainly have bought the T-shirt in terms of injuries. And, you know, Ruby has had shocking injuries in the past 12 months alone. So he will probably mind himself a bit and, you know, be conscious of the future that he has after racing. As he said yesterday, his 4-year-old daughter said to him on the way to the races, you know, just don't break your leg today, Daddy.
That's one hell of a line to hear, isn't it, before going racing, going to do your day job. You mentioned Rachel Blackmore there a moment ago. You mentioned her as well yesterday. She is obviously leading jockey at the moment. Would you make her favourite to be champion jockey at the end of the season?
I'd say favourite would probably be a little bit optimistic because, you know, with Davy Russell kind of to kick into gear yet, I suppose, and then you have like Paul Townend and Ruby coming back. It'll be difficult for Rachel, but at the same time, she's racked up so many rides. I think she's either the most used jockey or second most used in Ireland. I think she might even be the most used, and she's been used by all these like top connections, namely Jigginstown, Willie Mullins, and various others. And she's had quite a nice lead, and she'll be hoping for a decent Galway. But she certainly has a chance. While I wouldn't make her favourite, I don't think there'd be a more popular winner. Not just because, you know, I heard Andy Lee talking about, you know, difference between women's and men's boxing there, and ever in racing. It's not just the fact that Rachel's a female rider or whatever. It's just the fact that she's come from an amateur kind of background, from out of the blue, really. She just made a big success of it, but mainly through hard work and talent, you know, and she would have a chance. And it'll be a hell of a story in Punchestown if she rocks up at the Punchestown Festival in April, leading the title by 1 or 2 at that stage, because everyone will definitely be racking in behind her.
Yeah, that's for sure. Just a quick last word then on last night's racing. A 1-2 for Mullins in the Amateur Derby. Would that have been the standout result?
Definitely, yeah. Eurodale winning for Aubrey McMahon. You know, Patrick Mullins was on in this very studio that you're sitting in. He was on a couple of weeks ago saying that he really wanted to win the big race in the Monday night for amateurs. It has such a history. His father won it. And Limerick, for most of the race, looked like she was going to deliver it for him. But just the same as last year, Aubrey McMahon riding for his father just basically produced Eurodale to pounce on the running and win going away. And I was briefly talking to Aubrey after the last race because he was riding again for his dad, a horse for Ted Walsh, and the horse kind of pretty much jumped a little tape going across the track, and, you know, very unceremoniously he ended up, the jockey ended up on his backside, and he had all grass stains to prove it afterwards. The horse was withdrawn, and, you know, he just had to laugh and say that's the highs and lows of racing. But for him, for the rise that Aubrey gets to win the GPT, as it used to be known, 2 years in a row, is really, it's almost like winning the lotto twice. And the smile on his face certainly was one of the memories of day one. But Patrick, it's just gotten away in him again.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to ask you about from yesterday's racing was Dennis Hogan. Just like watching on TV throughout the day, he obviously popped up a couple of times, and in the race that he had 3 horses in, one of his horses won, but he was riding as a jockey in the horse that finished third, I think. Johnny, like, this is an incredible situation that he's in. Like, is this commonplace in modern racing where you've got people who are trying to double job as a jockey and as a trainer?
No, it's probably about as commonplace as player managers really now. They're not common at all. And Galway United, we have one in Alan Murphy, but he's kind of coming off the bench, and it just doesn't. I've spoken to a few guys who are nearing the end of their career, and they're like, it's just you just can't do it anymore. It's too difficult, and it's obviously very difficult for trainers. But I think Dennis had 6 horses in that race yesterday, and what was most notable was Barry Geraghty was actually riding the winner, Storm Rising, and JP McManus had 2 horses in the race. So that reflects the changing kind of relationship between Barry and JP McManus. But I thought that was quite a heartwarming victory as well. But Dennis is a big Tipperary hurling fan, so any little boost he can get at this stage of the championship will definitely help. But a winner at Galway, he's an excellent trainer. If you ever want to send a horse to someone and you live in the Tipperary, Cloughjordan region in general, Dennis, great lad to deal with, and he has fun for his owners at the race, and to have a first and third in a competitive handicap hurdle on day one is happy days for him.
What about the owners that own the horses that Dennis Hogan isn't riding in a particular race? Because surely that's just indicative of Dennis Hogan's own opinion on the horses, and he's basically saying to those owners, listen, your horse isn't as good as another horse that I'm training.
Yeah, well, he rode Golden Poet, I think, which was 14-1, and Storm Rising was 10-1. Now, Dennis would probably argue that Barry Geraghty is a better jockey than him as well. But, I mean, if you're an owner and you've... Willie Mullins is amazingly adept at kind of keeping his owners happy when he has loads of them, basically entered in the one race. Now, he usually doesn't run loads of them, but sometimes he does. And as an owner, you want to run at the Galway Festival. And if you finish third at Galway, it's not finishing first, but you're in the winner's enclosure afterwards. You're in third place. You're just enjoying the buzz of having a runner at Galway. And a lot of it is about the journey rather than the actual destination as well. Because from my perspective of being involved in horses down the years, the crack that you have leading up to the race meeting is almost more fun than the actual race itself, and there's so much dilemmas and debate about who will ride and where the horse will finish, what's the best price and all that, and then the whole Galway experience itself is a blur. So I don't think the owners would particularly mind Dennis spreading his talents around and getting what was nearly a 1-2 in Galway. He would have been the other trainer apart from Willie if he'd had that 1-2, but he had a first and third, and there was a great buzz there yesterday. There was 20,000 people there, and people just appreciate being involved.
Yeah, and it's going to hot up as the week goes on as well. Today's racing then, Johnny, the 20 past 5, the novice hurdle there is the feature.
Yeah, it might be hotting up, but if you can see here out there, that's how grim it is right now in Salt Hill. So it's hotting up maybe in terms of action, but not in terms of the weather. And
how is that going to affect things?
It's Galway's having been from Galway. The west of Ireland is crazy in terms of you can get 4 seasons in a day, and I would expect that the weather could well change. I think it's not going to be quite like this all day, but it certainly will affect the crowd a little bit. It will affect the ground. Some of the horses I fancied, like one of my fancies was Gusty Rocky in the 5:55. I'd be very worried about the ground for him now. But the feature race is the race that Riven Light won last year, and that's the Galway Mile, now sponsored by Colin Quinn, who sponsors many of the races today. This is going to be an intriguing race. Ger Lyons won this before 5 years ago with Brendan Bracken. He's one of the previous winners who rocks up in the race. But I think Inscribe, his stablemate, who's ridden by Colin Keane, he's just nice and progressive. He will enjoy the soft ground and has a very good chance. But 120 grand prize money here, you can see why it's such a popular race. Fully subscribed, raiders over from Britain as well to run in it, and it's going to be an interesting tactical day for riders, I feel, with the ground just easing a bit because we've had plenty of rain this morning.
Yeah, definitely. Now, every day this week, Johnny, you're taking our €100 weekly charity bet from thetote.com, and you're putting €20 a day on the place pot. So you've got more selections for us today. It was a tough start for you though yesterday.
It was, yeah. I spoke to Joe Hennessy from the Tote. So I think just to educate people, maybe yesterday I went for one selection race this day, and henceforth we'll go for a little bit more than that, just to make it more practical. So today we have 16 basic cross selections, so it's going to work out at a €1.25 stake. So you're going to be talking in race 1, we're going to go number 3. Race 2, we're going to go 3 and 6. And then in race 3 and 4, I'm taking a little bit of a gamble here, but going just for one selection. Race 3, I'm going for 6. That's Hermosa, trained by Aidan O'Brien, who'd be probably the good thing of the day, I think. And then race 4, number 9, Ger Lyons horse. Now, in race 5, we're going to go for 4 selections, 7, 11, 12, 16, and then 6 and 8 in race 6. So they're my selections, and hopefully it'll work out. But we still have plenty of chances before the week is out. And the new Tote building in Galway yesterday, I thought looked absolutely spectacular. They've done a really good job on it, and it was really, really busy, And hopefully we might get the play spot up today, but it's still a long way to go in Galway.
Good stuff, Johnny. Anything else to look out for today?
I would be very sweet on a horse Pat Fahey trains. I think will absolutely love the ground today. And Pat, of course, is a Galway man, albeit stationed in Carlow. Would love a winner in Galway. Stormy Bell, Kevin Manning, just a draw in 2, I think, in the 840 is going to be really, really helpful to this horse. And Ace of Diamonds trained by Dermot Well. Dermot Well, we didn't mention him. He'd a nondescript start of the week, really. He had a few relatively fancied runners, nothing placed, so he'll be hoping for a lot better today. And I'll just get the time for Ace of Diamonds here. The 8:10. I think this horse under Oshinor is excellent each way value at around 7-1. So Stormy Bell, not unlike the weather this morning, and Ace of Diamonds will be my 2 main selections.
Good stuff, Johnny. Thanks a million for that. Hopefully they come through. Enjoy the weather. Hopefully it clears up for you a little bit later on, and we'll chat to you tomorrow.
Thanks a million, Owen.
Johnny Ward there with us every day from Ballybrit at the Galway Races. Jotting down a couple of tips there, Andy?
I have them down there. They're in the book.
We'll see.
What's his record like?
Pretty good. Well, he's still on the show. We haven't ditched him post Cheltenham, so
he's very informative, very knowledgeable.
No, he is
engaging. Yeah.
He knows his stuff anyway, or at least he sounds like he knows his stuff anyway. Not too many of us to fact check it. We do, before we actually get to Dillian Whyte this morning, we do want to chat a little bit about Seamus McDonagh, because we've got a mini documentary coming up. If you haven't seen any of Andy's mini documentaries previously, make sure to go onto our YouTube channel and check them out. They're always brilliant, and Seamus McDonagh's story is another brilliant one, isn't it?
Yeah, it was fortunate that he contacted me, said I'm back in Ireland, and just was having a chat. And then obviously I said, would you be interested in doing an interview with us and just telling us about your life? And certainly an interesting story, and a very engaging man, and he really opens up to us and is really giving of and sharing of what he's been through, and I don't want to say too much because that'll take away from the documentary, but this guy who came from Meath, born in Birmingham, family from Meath, and went back to Meath, Enfield, and ends up in living in Brooklyn, and ends up winning the Golden Gloves and turning pro, while all the time studying in college, and never an idea that he was going to go pro. Wanted to pursue a career in law, and ends up becoming a professional fighter, and ends up fighting Holyfield, the best #1 fighter in the world, #1 heavyweight in the world at that time, and had some struggles with alcoholism and a brain injury in the ring, and kind of wanders through life for a while, and then falls into acting by chance, meeting with a guy named Jimmy Smallhorn, Dublin actor, very nice guy, and and he's very philosophical about his life, and seems very happy about the way things go, and doesn't have any regrets. So it's a really interesting piece, and I'm looking forward to seeing it myself.
So am I. It sounds amazing. Like, it's for a man who fought Holyfield, like, it's not exactly like, why isn't he as big a headline name as he potentially could be? It's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, he said, well, Ireland were in I think they were playing a match that day in Italia 90, the same day he fought Holyfield, and he said it didn't get any coverage, but he said he was glad because he lost the fight. So he wasn't too fussed about it. So he's a really good guy. He actually came with me in the photo. That's him sitting in the middle of me, myself and another friend at the game on Sunday. So
he's based back here?
He's only back for a short visit, and he's getting married, and he's shooting a film here, and then he's going back to America.
Right, very interesting. Like, the build up to the Holyfield fight, like, was that post Tyson getting beaten by Buster Douglas that kind of screws that thing up?
That's part of the story. And he tells it in the interview that he was sitting at home with his girlfriend in her apartment, in her parents' apartment in Staten Island. They're watching Mike Tyson fight Buster Douglas in Japan. Never, totally unaware, never known that the result of that fight would have serious implications in his life and change the course of his life. Holyfield was due to fight Tyson in the next fight, but because Douglas won, that put that plan, paid to those plans, and now they're looking for the listings for a heavyweight to fight Holyfield, and Seamus is ranked number 6 in the world, and he gets the fight, and his reaction is, why would I fight Holyfield? I don't want that fight. What am I doing? And they offer him, he said, if you win this one, your next fight will be 25 million.
Wow.
It's pretty hard to say no to, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, there's talk in this mini documentary as well about, like, fear in the ring, and McDonagh, like you mentioned, his brain injuries there. Like, apparently it's like really good insight, but we might get to a sneak peek of it in just a moment. Actually, we can go to that sneak peek right now. We'll let the film do the talking.
I fought a guy named Michael Greer. He was world ranked also, and then all of a sudden they had me ranked number 9 in the world as a heavyweight, but 3 as a cruiserweight. So in February or so of 1990, the biggest shock in boxing history. The invincible Mike Tyson gets knocked out by Buster Douglas. So threw the whole boxing world on its head, because the biggest fight of the year, of the century, was supposed to be, or any of the decade, was supposed to be Holyfield against Tyson. So I guess they looked in the rankings. They saw they had a huge following on the east coast of America. So they asked me to fight Holyfield, and we said, "I'm not going to fight Holyfield. I'm a cruiserweight. He's the number one in the world heavyweight." And then they came back a week later and they says, "Okay, but if you beat him, you'll make 25 million in your next fight." So we had to take it, you know.
How could you say no to that? Yeah. So just to wrap up on this, then, like the injuries and the brain injuries that you were talking about there, like, apparently he's really good in terms of the longer form version that'll go out of this, in terms of the fear in the ring and the real sort of mortality that he kind of felt close to at times.
Yeah. And it's not something I experience. I guess it's the different makeup of your character. Like, when I was fighting, you just push that to the back of your mind. But for him, it seems that he was very much aware of this. And I think when you have those thoughts, I think you know it's time to get out. You know, I think you can't enter the ring with any doubt. And if you're thinking about being safe, I think the writing's on the wall already, you know. So in saying that, he's probably around the same height as me, and he was fighting at heavyweight, you know, against Evander Holyfield. And if anyone wants to look at that fight, and hopefully we can show some of it in the interview, the difference in physique and the difference in, you know, ability, it's alarming, you know. And you could see why you would have if I was going on against a guy like Holyfield, I'd be having those thoughts too.
I can imagine, yeah. Like, it's even interesting to think about how that manifests itself in the ring. Like, is it just defensive tactics that lead to your detriment more? This is what perplexed me in the interview, because I've watched the fight and he talks about going out there and from seeing Holyfield across the ring even before the first bell, having this ultimate fear just coming over him. But he fights like he's got no fear. And he goes out and he lets his hand, and he trades with Holyfield, and that was his downfall. And he says he kind of regrets that he should have took his time. He wasn't experienced enough to box and to move around and to feel himself into the fight, because he comes out from the first bell and he lets his hands go, and ultimately that led to his downfall. Yeah, it's going to be a great piece. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be up on our YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/offtheball in the coming days, and we'll make sure to let you know when that is live. We do want to turn back to the heavyweight picture, because Saturday night in the O2 was an unbelievable fight. Dillian Whyte beating Joseph Parker after 12 rounds. It was tiring from a spectator's point of view, and I can imagine it was unbelievably tiring from a fighter's point of view. I'm delighted to say that Dillian Whyte, the victor there, joins us on the line. Good morning to you, Dillian. Thanks a million for taking the call.
Hey, you guys doing all right?
Dillian, how you doing? It's Andy Lee.
I'm good, Andy. I'm good. How's life, man?
Sounds like we just woke you up from bed after you just you're relaxing after your win.
Yeah. I just woke up on 3 minutes ago, man.
Well, thank you for taking the call. How are you feeling? How's your body? How are you healing up?
I'm alright. I'm a little bit sore. You know, I had a broken hand. I broke it into the fight. They're a little bit still sore, but.
You had a broken hand going into the fight?
Yeah, I broke my hand 3 weeks and then the same week I'm sparring, my rib get done as well. I was thinking,
wow.
Oh my God, there's no way I'm getting to this fight.
Was that your left or right hand?
I broke my left hand. Broke the last 2 little knuckles on my left hand.
And it's funny, because that was the punch that you had most of your success with when you were catching.
Yeah,
I was seeing that you were catching
my
him.
left hook is one of my best punches, you know, but as soon as I hit with the first jab in the fight, I feel the gloves start filling up. Like the space in the glove just went straight away, you know?
Yeah. Dillian, just hang on one moment. We're just going to improve the line there a little bit. It's just a little bit hard to make out through that line. So we'll get back to that in just a moment. That's incredible. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it makes the win even more, incredible.
Yeah, that was that said before the fight? I don't recall.
So, no.
That's incredible. So it was the left, and that's the hand he used to knock him down twice.
Yeah.
Well, the first one it wasn't really a knockdown as such. It was more of a collision. But that's one hell of a situation, Dillian. Yeah, you've come back with us. We were just talking about that injury you had sustained going into the fight. Like, that's incredible. Like, that must have been some job trying to keep that a secret and to not let your opponent in the ring actually find out about that before the bout.
I know, but you know what's funny? I was in there, he hit me the body shot, and the first round I think it was left hook to the body. to the same spot where the ribs fractured, and I thought, oh my God, here we go. Let's just get into it. And I thought, let's just get into a wall. There's no point trying to box this guy. Every time he hits me and it hurts, I'm going to hit him back as hard as I can and try to hurt him as much as I can.
Dillian, it was the last round was one of the best rounds of boxing I've seen in a long, long time. How did you get through it?
You know what? I thought to myself, so much ups and downs in life. This is my moment, and I'm not going to let Parker steal this moment from me. And I just thought to myself, last time I was in this position, I carried on slugging and I got stopped. I thought, you know what, Joe? Slug a little bit till you get a little bit of time where you can take a clean knee. Because what I didn't want to do is try and hold him and get tagged when I was trying to hold him. So I made it look like I was trying to fight back, and I took the knee. Then I got up and I thought, listen, I'm holding on to these ropes. I don't care if the referee take 1 point away because I know I'm rounds ahead anyway. Yeah.
It's a great win, and it puts you as the main challenger for the world title now. Sure, you must feel like it's long overdue.
Yeah, it's been a long time. We've been fighting eliminator after eliminator after eliminator after eliminator. But you know what? I don't complain. I just keep cracking on and just keep going on. You know.
You didn't feel frustrated after the Lucas Brown fight that the title fight didn't come then?
Yeah, I was very, very frustrated. But then after, I just thought, you know what? I don't really care. I'm just going to keep having big fights and keep giving the fans big fights, because the last 2 fights I've had, they should have been world title fights, you know. And but the good thing is the fans have still come out to support me, whether they're world title fights or not. So I just focus on just having big fights, making as much money as I can, and entertaining the fans as much as I can, you know. The funny thing is, I was trying to fight Joseph Parker 2 years ago and he was world champion. And he didn't want to fight me, and then now all of a sudden he lost his world title, wanted to fight me, you know.
Well, I think that really translates, and that's why you've become such a popular fighter. You've sold out the O2 now twice in a row. It's it's no small feat, and it reflects that you're just willing to fight anybody. Who do you want to fight next? That you're willing to fight anybody, but is there somebody who you want to take on?
You know what? Ideally, I'd like to fight Joshua, but he's tied up. I'd like to fight Wilder, but I don't know what Wilder's doing. But there's a fella out there called Manuel Charles that would be a regular world title. I think he's the guy that I'll try and target. If he's realistic and he wants to lose his title and make some money, then I would like to get the fight on.
Well, I think I think Eddie Hearn needs to do everything he can to get that fight, because you've earned it and you deserve it. What do you make of Tyson Fury saying that he's in talks with Wilder?
Tyson Fury, listen, you know, he's got Irish blood, same as I do. You know, I got a lot of respect for him and what he does, and I always support my own kind. But I just think Tyson Fury is a bit deluded. Because I think the end of Wilder will kill Tyson Fury right now. I think Tyson Fury, he's about 5-6 fights. You know what it's like, Andy. You've been a fighter. When you've been out the ring for that long and not had all the problems he's had, you can't come into those big fights straight away after 2 fights back. No chance. You know, I think Tyson Fury likes to duck a lot and he likes to try and steal the show and stuff, but I think he's not realistic. Fighting there, unless he's thinking, you know what, I'm going to make 10 million quid and gamble my career and call it a day. That's the only reason I can see, because right now, Deontay Wilder is too sharp for him right now. Not that Tyson Fury couldn't beat him, but Tyson Fury needs to get his rhythm, his mindset and his ring fitness back.
Dillian, to what extent do you feel that Saturday's victory will change the public perception of you? Because, I don't know, I felt you were a little bit underrated. I think the whole world has woken up to what you can do after Saturday. Again, another sellout, great pay-per-view figures, and ultimately it's getting revenge against Anthony Joshua, which a lot of people view is your natural next step, or maybe not the next step, but maybe in 2 or 3 fights' time.
You know, a lot of people know what I can do, but I just show the people that, you know, I can box, I can fight, and I refuse to lose. So, you know, boxing people sort of know what I'm capable of and what I can do, but it's just the general public now seeing it twice in a row. I've gone up against guys I should have lost against, and guys who should have beaten me, and I've dealt with them in different manner. You know, so people is now finally opening their eyes and seeing that Anthony Joshua is not the only man in the UK. You know, there's a guy called Dillian Whyte out there as well.
Yeah, like it's also seen that you've learned and you've evolved as a fighter and you've grown as a man since that Anthony Joshua defeat. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, that was the best thing to happen to me, to be honest, because I was a 6-round puncher. I was coming through. I was a 5-6 round puncher coming through, knocking guys out, and I was living in London, training at home, enjoying the life, living, one of the local hard boys, whatever, and then I went up against someone who was doing it properly and who had the right backings and everything behind him, and I came up short. And then that taught me, listen, if you want to be what you say you're going to be, you need to get away from London, train properly, take this thing serious, because it's not a joke.
Mm. After that fight, you moved with Mark Tibbs and the Tibbs' gym.
Yeah.
What kind of impact or what role has he played in your evolution?
Mark's good. He's not one of. So I've been over training for to change my style, try to make me this, try to make me that. Mark's just trying to improve what I do. I'm trying to get me slipping and rolling a lot more. I'm trying to get me to use my jab a lot more and get inside and work the body, with twos and threes. Like he says, he's going to slip, trip, rip him, and rough him up and let the hands go on the inside. And he's a funny guy. I'm only taking the nick out of him because of the way he speaks. But, he's a great guy, great trainer, great insight, And he's been around the big fights. His dad's trained a lot of top fighters, and he's helped his dad train them over the years, And he was a good little fighter himself as well.
Because there is one thing working with a great trainer, but then there's also it's also another thing being a professional boxer and being able to grow and learn like that and showing an eagerness to learn. Like when you teamed up with Tibbs, did you feel this is a great opportunity for me? And I guess you kind of parsed a lot of the things that you thought you already knew to try and learn a little bit more and to be more like a sponge when you were working with Tibbs.
Yeah, you know what it is. Andy would tell you, you have to have a certain connection with the trainer, and that if you have to feel that trainer is giving you a certain amount of time and that trainer is willing to invest time and effort into you and teaching you. And from the first day I met Mark, I felt that, I felt that straight away. Me and him, we never had an argument really. We get on, and he just tried to improve what I have and tried to add little bits to it, not try and change it, and it's just great when you find that sort of guy. That's like even. I keep using Andy because obviously he's done a lot of same things in his career. When he moved to Adam Booth, he changed his style a lot because Adam Booth gave him that confidence and gave him that landscape to learn from, and it's the same thing with me and Mark,
There's also kind of the element from your career, like coming from a kickboxing background to a mixed martial arts background to a boxing background, that naturally going from different disciplines, you've had to evolve. So when that defeat to Anthony Joshua happens, you were already used to the process of evolution, and that helps you grow as well as a fighter, I'd imagine. Yeah.
I'm quite a versatile guy. I just try my best to just try and pick up as much as I can, learn as much as I can, and just try and just keep improving myself as much as I can as a fighter and as a human being, because it goes hand in hand. You can't just become a good fighter unless you become a good human being as well, in and outside the ring. It all helps, it all helps you inside the ring,
Like that growth as a human being as well is really important. We always hear boxers talk about it, and you've had like a tough background, like you were speaking about it last week in an interview with Gareth A. Davies. Like I'm sure you kind of dwell on those experiences, or not dwell on them, you kind of call on those experiences when you're in a situation like you were with Parker at the weekend, where it is pure survival in the 12th round.
Listen, everything you go through in life helps you. It's up to you whether you want to make them break you or help you. And I choose to make the situation I go through in life help me to get to where I am and become a better person. And when times get hard, I always look back at my situation, what I've been through to get to where I've got to. And, and another thing is I was with my mother and stuff like that. One side definitely helped, because I know the sacrifice she made, leaving me as a child to come to the UK to try to make life better. My mom told me she used to cry every day, walk down the street and cry because she left her baby at home, but she never had any choice. So, all those things echo in the back of my mind when the going get tough, and I thought to myself, you know what, win this fight, I can change mine and my mother's life forever. And I just thought to myself, you know what, you've had the roll of dice before, Parker, and you choose not to take choose not to make a sacrifice that you need to win. You ain't going to beat me today, my friend, no chance.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful experience to call on, Dillian. It's probably more powerful than your opponent has.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's had his own upbringings. I don't know how powerful his experience has been. I know how hard they've been, but I know how hard mine has been. I know how much I've suffered, and I just want to make my mama proud and stuff like that. So whatever I can do to do that, I know she's already proud of me because I changed my life around. You know, I'm in a different environment. You know, I'm not a certain way anymore, and I got a positive outlook in life. I'm doing things, but I just want to be enough to change her life forever. You know, make her go live somewhere in a nice beach somewhere and enjoy the rest of her days.
What's next for Dillian Whyte? Like, where do you see yourself in 12 months' time?
To be world champion. Definitely to be world champion, you know. Definitely to be world champion, you know. So now we just have to put the wheels in motion and try and see how we can touch it and bringing the world title home.
Dillian, thank you for joining us. Listen, you've certainly made your mother proud with that victory and what you've continued to do, and long may it continue. We'll be watching and we'll be supporting you. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Dillian Whyte there, heavyweight boxer. Brilliant stuff there. It's after an unbelievable fight as well. It's great of him to come on the show just a couple of days afterwards. Like, it was remarkable actually watching him on, I think he was on Sky Sports News on Sunday morning, and like standing there facing the questions with a Sky reporter. It's like, how are you even standing up after that the morning after? It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I know. And it's interesting that I was just remembering back, I see a clip of him hitting Jimmy Bullard body shots on Soccer AM, but he was using his right hand. He wasn't using his left hand.
Right, okay.
Because I was thinking, why doesn't he hit him with the left hook to the body, which would be his famous punch?
Well, it is Jimmy Bullard, a man about half his size. He probably would have killed him.
But great interview, and really appreciate him coming on and taking the time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, like, I don't know, maybe, like he says there, and you've been saying it all morning as well, that this is a serious fighter and that real boxing people would know what I can do. And maybe like a lot of us have just read way too much into that Joshua defeat. And it's, I don't know why.
It's still very early. It was only early in both of their careers. And people evolve and improve. And I'd say, if you looked at them, not that like him and Joshua are definitely closer now, but if you look at the level of improvement since that fight, you would say Dillian Whyte's improved a lot more than Joshua has in that time. Joshua's improved certainly, but Dillian Whyte has improved and come on a lot more. And if they are to fight again, it'll be a lot closer fight.
Who's the best heavyweight in the world right now?
Right now, Dillian Whyte, because he's on the Off the Ball AM show. It's hard to say. You have to say Joshua. You have to say just because of the results.
Yeah.
But if Fury gets back to fitness, he's a threat. Wilder's a threat, and Dillian Whyte's a threat too.
It's going to be great. Like it does feel like not that long ago we were sitting here talking about a desperately poor heavyweight division, and now it's turned completely on its head. It's amazing how quickly that can happen in boxing, how an entire division can change.
You know what? For all the downsides of social media, it has an upside, and this is probably it, because these guys have a presence online. They're being challenged publicly by other fighters. And none of them wants to lose face because they all have egos. And the public are getting involved. And they're putting it up to them. And so they're being met on the streets in real life saying, oh, why didn't you reply to that guy who said, I want to fight you? Why? And like I said, they're getting their nose put out of joint, so they're going to have to fight. And I think that maybe it's one of the upsides to social media, that these fights are happening.
Yeah, you already get the suspicion that 2019 could be an absolutely pivotal year in heavyweight boxing. Andy, thank you very much for everything this morning.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Rooting for Limerick over the next couple of weeks.
Of course.
Rooting for you to get a ticket.
Yeah, come on, guys.
You got to tweet Andy Lee Boxing if you've got any tickets for the man. And like, he was in the second row to Hogan stand, for God's sake, in an All-Ireland semi-final. That deserves a final ticket straight away. Best of luck with that. We'll have you on again before the final, no doubt, here on OTBAM. The lads are back in the radio tonight on Off the Ball from 7 o'clock. The doom and gloom around Old Trafford is going to be on the agenda. José Mourinho will feature in a piece with Andy Mitten. And we're back tomorrow morning here on OTBAM from 7:45am. We're bringing you an interview with Jim Bulger, the legendary racehorse trainer. He's 78 this year. We had a great chat with him about hurling as well. That's ahead of Hurling for Cancer, an event in a couple of weeks' time. We're also going to be looking ahead to the weekend's football action, a little bit on the hurling as well, of course, because it is another huge weekend of GEA, and we cannot wait. We'll chat to you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye for now.
OTB AM. Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.